Success.
Nice.
Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 375 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada. We're recording on December the 12th, 2022.
We need your help to support the Canadian Patriot Podcast. Visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. Show you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and follow the link on the right.
This takes us to my favorite segment. It's called What Are We Drinking? It's where I start by asking Liz, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking bourbon.
And what is one task that you've completed on the Patriot Challenge? Unless you would like to give me more details about your bourbon, which I'm here for.
It's really
is
good.
It like the gin? It's like gin, right?
Bourbon is not
Bourbon
like
is
gin.
like gin.
Oh.
Yeah, it is, in that it's an alcohol.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, how is it like that? But
And that's about where the similarities end.
yeah,
I don't know.
Bourbon
I
is
enjoyed him in
just-
The Office.
oh, Jim. What? Okay, I'm lost. Yeah, no, it's really good. I think it's like Angel something. I don't know. It's
Oh.
really good.
Oh,
Angel's Tears?
Maybe
Is that the...
yeah. Well,
Angel
there's
something.
maybe Angel's Share. That's usually
Maybe.
what they say is the part that evaporates and
That's
goes
the
up
part
to
that
the
evaporates
angels.
from whiskey. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
Angels
There's
Envy?
writers
Angels-
tears, but that's
Writers'
an
Tears,
Irish.
that's
That's an
Irish
Irish whiskey. So, yeah.
I'm mixing my Irish and my
Yeah.
Americanisms.
I don't know.
Angel's Envy is bourbon.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
yes.
so. I'm
That's
gonna
the
look
one.
it up right now and I'll tell you based on the bottle.
Writer's Tears is Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
Angel's
Also good.
Envy, that's exactly what it
Yeah.
is, which by the
Yeah.
way is really good.
Yeah, it is.
Good.
Yeah, this
Maybe
is like
they're
the
envious
last few
because
sips
they
of the
didn't get
bottle.
that part of the whiskey.
Mm. Well, I would be too, I guess.
Well, you are
Um,
getting the good part
I
of
know,
it, so
I
you
know.
don't need to be envious.
I'm not actually envious,
Well, that's good,
but
Envy is a sin, and I hear those are bad.
especially for angels.
Also, it's nearly Christmas time, so does that put you on the naughty list? Or no, wait, the other
No.
thing? No, yes, yes.
I mean, I think you're trying really hard to be like
I'm not sure
Judeo-Christian
what happened. Is it
vibing,
my
but
sound or is Liz just muted?
No,
I think it's
I'm-
just you.
yes, no,
Um,
I
Oh,
could
good, it's
hear
my
it just
sound.
fine. Yeah.
gosh, Andrew just didn't want to hear me chirp him about his attempt at Christmas stuff.
I mean,
Whatever.
I even wore a festive sweater for our listening audience.
I thought about it, but all my Christmas attire is in the wash because I just pulled it out. So pulled it out of its storage bin. One thing I've done on the Patriot Challenge is I don't know, I feel like I'm always learning a new skill or developing skills. I'm in school, so my brain is dead half the time and I'm still apparently learning something. So
Well, that's good.
That sounds horrible.
it's not great. People in their 30s shouldn't go back to school. It's stressful.
Yeah,
But
but keep learning stuff, just maybe not in school.
I know. Well, that's kind of my gig is that I'm like gonna finish this and then never go back.
Never again.
Never go back. I'm done. Yeah,
That's fair.
yeah. It's a thing. What else have I done on the Patriot Challenge? I don't even know. Pass. I'm just gonna drink my whiskey. That's it.
Who are you passing it to?
Oh, I technically have to pass? Guys, there's a list on a sheet somewhere. Pierre, you're next. What's up,
It's
buddy?
the formality. You have to appreciate the formalities.
Cheers.
There you go.
Passing
I'm
it to
drinking.
Pierre.
I'm drinking whiskey. This is per normal. Got some reading done the last few days. Took some time out, put everything away, and read some books. So that was good. And had to practice some extra skills last week that involved computers and being an IT guy for certain things. And it was It's kind of fun, but it really sucked at the same time.
What was the fun part?
I didn't have to be outside in the cold.
Okay.
And the part when he finished doing it, that was also fun.
Yeah. Right. So like
Yeah.
I work out of my service truck. So normally like, it's -20 out. I'm still doing stuff, but this kind of took presidency, and I was one of the only people that knew how this worked somehow and had easy access to it. So turned into me sitting down all day and sending a bunch of emails. So yeah. What about you, Gavin?
Still on the water train. Crushing my hydration goals week after week after week after week. And my reading goal for the year is all done. Finished my book the other day. Started a new one just cause.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you
I
could go ahead and read my books so that I finish my reading goal, that would be fantastic.
I'll see what I can do. I did start reading the second book in the Nick Stone series, the Andy McNabb books.
Nice.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. So I figured I've done a bunch of like non-fiction books in a row, and I figured it was about time to do another fiction book. So I wanted something a little bit,
Light.
yeah,
I
with
feel
lots of swearing and action. So
Nice.
went with that. And I got to go shooting the other day. So, that was always good. Practiced a skill. Took out one of my Fuck Trudeau pistols. Shot it
Yeah.
for the first time. It was my festive one because it's a Beretta, because Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
100%.
Okay.
It was good times. Andrew, what are you drinking this evening?
Prepare yourselves. It's December.
Uh-oh.
I don't even know what that
Twice
means.
checked winter spiced ale from Railway City Brewing. Make a list and check it twice. Have you been naughty or have you been nice? With spicy gingerbread cookie and vanilla, this handcrafted ale goes perfect with fresh fallen snow.
Which
Ew.
we got the other day. So, yeah, appropriate.
How's that taste?
Closest comparison I have is Granville Island's Lion Winter Ale. It's festive. It's kind of gingerbread-y. It's ginger-y. It's good. It
Okay.
So it's like a ginger beer, but not a ginger beer.
it is nothing like a ginger beer, but it does taste a little bit like ginger.
And it's a beer.
But I was always more of a fan of Mary Ann, so I'm not sure if that puts
Yeah.
me ahead or behind.
Well, as long as you're not a fan of the Skipper.
I mean, it was misunderstood. It's solid
do you
festive
put the
Christmas
snow-
beer.
Do you put the snow in the beer?
No, you put the beer in the snow. It keeps it cold.
Oh,
It's nature.
oh.
Yeah, I've
nature's
definitely
fridge.
done that before.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's just part of being a Canadian.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say we went
Yeah.
to Buckendo one time, and we obviously had a couple of drinks before we went,
Yeah.
but we were walking just down the road. So we knew that we couldn't bring ours in, so we just left the rest of our beers in the snowbank and then picked them
Yeah.
up on the way out when we left.
The
That
only
is-
issue is when you go ice fishing up at Don's place and it's -30, your beer
Mm.
freezes when you're walking out.
Oh,
So you got to
Yeah.
drink it real fast.
Except
I
you
was
guys
gonna
made
say,
multiple mistakes. You didn't walk. You rode the Argo.
No, I
And-
walked out the first day to go visit
Oh,
Marty.
you walked it the first day. Okay, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And you should have brought whiskey because the performance to weight ratio is much better.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
Yeah.
didn't we hear stories about how drunk Andrew got?
But did
Yeah,
you also
because
hear the
his-
story
'cause-
about how Andrew was the only guy that caught a fish?
Okay.
And the reason he managed to get so drunk is because his alcohol didn't freeze.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
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 Whatever. I caught a fish and I was passed out at the time. What did you do?
At
Stole your
that
fish.
time,
Tried to
Not-
drink frozen alcohol.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
well,
say
very
I've
true.
actually never been ice fishing, so
I'd do it again.
well, yeah, clearly you were passed out from alcohol. It was a great experience.
And
Thoroughly
this year
enjoyed myself.
we'll have more Argos.
Oh, there you go. It sounds like a party.
Well,
I don't really have anything exciting for the Patriot Challenge. I am barely getting through all of the things. I'm just checking the boxes. I sat down in front of the computer and I literally, my watch went off and I got my step goal for the day. I sat down after dinner and I finished the last of my 2 liters of water. I probably am not going to read anymore today, at least not anything that I want to read. I've been reading for most of the day, but it's all been work related and not the books that I want to read.
Yeah.
So just barely ticking those boxes.
That's all right, as long as you're ticking the boxes.
Just
But, you know,
barely.
Yep.
It's still more than most.
Yeah,
Yep.
But you know, we'd love to hear your feedback about the show. So please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. The version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes.
And with that, I have a message from Gary. No, not really. I just would it be funny if there was a follow-up? That's all. If you know Jerry or Gary, what was his name? Gary?
We think it's
Gary, I
Gary.
think.
Yeah.
I feel like Jerry's with a J or a double R.
Sure. If you know
Yeah.
Jerry, tell him to get in touch with the show because we miss him.
Did
My
we
assault
even
weapons
know
need a
him?
hug. Well,
I don't
do you
know.
know anyone really?
I got to meet, I've met a few people.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
is
know,
meeting
I-
someone the
Chris
same as
is
knowing
already
them?
talking about in the chat how I'm a little bit more, my height is accurately represented since apparently my camera angle has changed.
I don't know. I don't even know if you people exist when I leave.
What?
So this isn't all CGI.
Schrodinger's Gavin.
Well,
Or Gavin is Schrodinger. I'm not.
All I think of is,
Yeah.
The government is both abusive and non-existent at the same time. The only way to find out is to open the box.
Yeah,
or to listen to the show.
you're gonna find out a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
government only exists if you believe the government exists.
Gosh.
I'll
Let's
believe
try
that on my
thought
next
yeah,
paycheck.
let's try that thought experiment. See what happens.
Well, I mean, convenient segue into the news. The government is about to try that thought experiment with us, Bill C-11, which I don't think we have discussed yet. I know I've been.
No, we've
a
kind
little
of alluded
absent
to
lately.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth discussing C-11, and not just because Ron Clove the Bailey did a 10-minute video that could have been 5 minutes, but I also got to watch 6 ads, so I hope he got enough clicks to get a haircut.
One day.
Yeah.
I feel
And
like you're
I
just,
now have a new
yeah.
version of Candy Crush on my phone that I can't put down. So thank you, YouTube, for those ads.
oh gosh.
But we should definitely talk about this before we're not allowed to talk about it.
Well, I
Yeah,
think-
you know what is actually about C11 though? I have some thoughts on it only because I mean, we've kind of expected it coming, but you know it's kind of serious when YouTube starts putting ads against C11. I've seen a couple and I'm
agreeing
like,
with
"What?"
communists for the wrong reasons, though. Yes, YouTube says it's bad, and I agree that it's
Mhm.
bad,
Yeah.
but not because of why YouTube says it's bad.
No,
They're the only ones that should be allowed to censor content, at least in their opinions.
yeah,
Yes
yeah.
and no, and I'm like, okay, it's
think
a
they just-
free platform, and they have control over their stuff and whatever, but like also public space on the internet. So
Mhm.
go ahead, Liz.
No, I just think that like they understand the commerce side of it. That's it. I think it's going to be a hit for them too, because think about, okay, so if Canada is doing this, what's going to happen next? I just, I think people are forward thinking enough. It may not be the right reasons. Might not be because it's actually like a desire of freedom of speech. It might just be because it's like, oh, hey, somebody else is going to regulate us. What? Not cool. So
You guys
Gavin's
are
laughing.
replying.
Why is
You guys-
Gavin
no, but you
laughing?
guys-
Oh, it's the absurdity of the whole thing. Just
He goes,
But I mean, you guys are applying logic to how YouTube is doing these ads. I have a feeling that it might be because they looked at it and they might get, a little bit less traffic, less ads,
Yeah.
less videos, this, that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to affect their bottom dollar a little bit. Maybe not as much as, some of the videos, but I mean, knock off, let's say even an eighth of their platform not being allowed to be shown anymore. that's going to affect their bottom dollar just as much as everybody else.
Just
So
raise your
yes,
hand, Andrew.
Yes, but no. Yes, but no. So I feel like we're glossing over the very important thing of, for the audience out there in podcast land, what is the content of Bill C-11 and why would YouTube care? Also, I'm all for like picking on YouTube and other big tech because I need to channel my inner David Heinemeier Hansen. Internet nerds will know who that is.
I was gonna say, I'm not an internet nerd. I have zero clue.
The guy that wrote Ruby on Rails, he regularly goes on triads on the internet about how like big tech is bad and he hates big tech and Google and Elon Musk. David Heinemeier Hansen is like my computer hero, one of my computer heroes. Steve Wozniak is really my computer hero, but for entirely different reasons. We don't need to go into why I became a software engineer. That's a whole other.
I mean, if we're going to talk about software heroes, I mean, you can't not mention, McAfee.
Yeah, when I grow up, I want to be John McAfee. And by that, I mean, I want to party like Charlie Sheen. But like with less AIDS, a lot less.
Yeah, a lot less. Yeah, like zero. Like,
oh my gosh.
Again, internet nerds will know what's going on.
I was gonna say, I only know like the antivirus software. That's it.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, so
I know it's that guy. I could.
Yeah,
I
but like
got
there
that
was a moment in time where he was living in Belize for some reasons.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may or may not have been on the tiger blood, also for reasons.
Yeah.
Oh.
May or may not have killed a hooker, but that's entirely speculative.
May have also married one in Belize.
Yeah.
Not
for
sure.
tax purposes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, C11.
Okay, yeah, C11. Break it
And
down.
not the fun,
Break it
and not the
down.
fun kind of C11.
Not the fun kind of C11. C11 is a continuation of what was C10 from 2 years ago. It's basically the same bill. It's in the auspices of protecting the children. It's an anti-pornography content moderation law that the government is planning to put through. But the implications are very vast, and it gives the CRTC, the Canadian Radio Telecommunications Commission, vast sweeping oversight over parts of broadcast domain that it doesn't currently have, i.e. the entire internet.
Yeah.
Which, like, blanket statement, child exploitation, bad. People who exploit children, also bad. Would chipper worthy offense, in my opinion. But Bill C11 doesn't actually address that, even though it starts out by saying that's the purpose of the bill, is to address child sex crime exploitation on the internet. It's supposed to be keeping minors safe on the internet.
Yeah, but we all know that they just use that fairly often as an excuse.
I know.
Well,
I'm just that's the framework the bill pretends to work in is it's going to keep minors safe on the internet.
Yeah, but that's the liberal
unintended consequences.
Like,
it might, because we just won't have the internet anymore.
Yeah, but that's the way they've been doing a lot of things, though, right?
Maybe.
Just like say something about public safety that sounds reasonable, give some governing body sweeping new powers.
Well, so this is
but take away your
CRTC
rights and everything,
really
but don't do
governing
anything.
Body. They're like a non-government organization that's working effectively for the federal government. They're not the government, but they are basically working for the government, and they're working in a certain means. And the CRTC is the same reason why we have things like Canadian content on television. A certain amount of programming must be Canadian on Canadian television channels. A certain amount of airtime on radio stations need to be Canadian. Gavin probably remembers the details of this more than me.
MAPL.
Yes, but it's produced in Canada. It's not necessarily Canadian artists.
Well, so the MAPL is music, artist, production, and lyrics. So as long as two of those things are done in Canada, it is considered Canadian content. So it is entirely possible that the artist is Canadian, but everything is done in the US and therefore does not qualify.
Doesn't count.
But it's also entirely possible that a artist
Production
is
and
some
lyrics.
other nationality, but does the production up here in Canada and publishes everything through a Canadian company and is then therefore considered Canadian content.
Right.
Because I mean, a lot of people go and record stuff in Vancouver. There's some famous music studios, and also like just not far down the road for me is also a really big recording studio where some big names have recorded. So if the production was done there, then that's one of the little
Sure.
tick boxes for this nonsense, right? So like, for example, Bryan Adams, who we would all agree is a Canadian icon,
Yeah.
not just in music, but fashion, is not considered a Canadian artist as far as this nonsense goes.
So we have the CRTC coming up with rules around these things for traditional media, radio and television, which is their purview. And I can understand you're not
now
exactly
the
going out
internet.
like you're not starting a radio station and broadcasting across the country, and it's a little difficult to do that. I don't really like the way the CRTC does this, but I haven't really liked anything the CRTC has done with the internet. So like big shock, because this goes back for probably the last, I'm gonna say 10 or 15 years. The CRTC has been trying to pull crap where they get to control what Canadians produce or consume online.
Yeah. Fun how
C11
that
would give
happens.
them that power. The state-sponsored regulatory agency, the CRTC, would get to come in and tell platforms what they are or not allowed to put out for Canadian consumption. So it would be likely similar to the rules they have for broadcast television and radio. You need to have a certain amount of Canadian content, or you need to, in YouTube's case, the algorithm needs to show Canadian content creators at a certain frequency, or it needs to show whatever their criteria is. It probably will be something similar to MAPL in radio broadcasting. You have to tick some boxes, and you get to do the front of the algorithm. Where it becomes a problem with that is if CRTC gets their way, if it's not Canadian content, it may not be accessible at all. And not just that it's not the front of the algorithm, not that it's like the top of the search feed, not that it's just like the next crappy autoplay video that YouTube picks for you. But if you wanted to, I don't know, listen to some opinion in Welsh, that is not approved by the Canadian government.
Yeah.
So you may not be able to go to like Welsh YouTube, like the Welsh content on YouTube. I'm using that because no one speaks Welsh. No one worth knowing anyway.
It's a very strange language.
It really is.
A lot of phlegm.
A lot of phlegm. So there's this problem. The CRTC also has the ability to target the entire internet by doing this. It could be any app, any website, any content platform. So that could be things like your Netflix, or is Hulu got a US thing, or is that only in Canada? Maybe Hulu is a bad example. This could apply to like BBC Online. This could apply to say Major
Amazon
League Baseball.
Prime.
Amazon Prime is certainly a good example of that. Amazon Prime does have some Canadian-made shows, if I'm not mistaken.
They might not have enough.
Yeah.
Well,
And you may only get those.
you may only get those. And it depends on how the content creators and the CRTC want to work together to do this, which in the case of YouTube, when you have an army of Google employees working at YouTube that can adjust the YouTube algorithm to become compliant, probably not a huge deal. When you're a much smaller streaming service, when you're a startup business, or when you're a smaller, I don't want to say content creator, because that's what we are, not when you're like a small distribution platform, something like BitChute, a competitor to YouTube, it becomes very problematic to implement some of these changes to make the regulatory agents happy. The simpler solution is to just not deal with it. So if you're coming from Canada, we just aren't going to serve you content. Have a nice day. Which that gets into the loss that Pierre was talking about a minute ago, is like YouTube could just say like, we're just not dealing with Canadians. Like we'll lose the ad revenue, but we're just not interested. Your market is not worth it.
Yeah. For the effort going into it, it's worth it to us for losing it and everything, because it's just not worth it. Yeah. But I mean, it's entirely possible that there's a bunch of people looking for work now that they've all been fired for Twitter that would gladly go and program some algorithms, because apparently they're good at that.
I feel like the people that got fired from Twitter and the people that can do actual programming are maybe like if there was a Venn diagram, the circles would The balls would hardly touch.
Just as Chick-fil-A intended.
Just yes. The other problem, not that there's not a myriad of problems with this, but the problem that the article that I've got on Reclaim the Net doesn't go into is the digital tokenization problem of both for consumers and content producers. So we, Canadian Patriot Podcast, my ragtag band of merry rebels, can we call you that? Am I assuming people's genders?
It could be gender neutral or
We're
gender fluid.
producing content. We're using YouTube obviously as one of our content distribution platforms. If you're watching the show live on Monday nights, if you're watching on YouTube. Do I need to, under this bill, prove to YouTube that I am in fact a Canadian? And if I do, how do I do that? Because I don't currently have a government issued digital token, some sort of a digital ID system,
Yeah.
a
Well,
a
that-
real
and
ID,
then-
if you will.
You can
I
show
do
them
not
a
have
picture
the-
of this.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
But
Well, I was going to say, I
As-
don't have the Lilu Dallas multi-pass, which is, I think,
Yeah.
what we're getting to. And this
You also
this
don't
is-
have the outfit.
I don't have the outfit, which is probably the best for everyone, unless you want to subscribe to my OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I guess the-
$5 a month to get me
Yeah.
get me in a photo of the Lilu Dallas outfit. $15 to not get that.
But I guess maybe we could always just like hold up our driver's license, our social insurance thing to the camera before every episode.
Well,
And then
This
show them a
is-
piece of paper saying ATT on it.
This is antithetical to the way the internet works, though.
Yeah.
Well, and you're all on. Everyone on the show is old enough to remember. There was a time on the internet where you like didn't talk to strangers. Don't tell strangers on the internet
Yeah.
like where you live and your real name,
Yeah.
and everything was done through
Yeah.
pseudonyms.
Yeah.
And now you can order a stranger from the internet with a car to take you to a destination and cross your fingers and hope
Yeah.
the best.
and look at your neighbor's butthole.
And
Huh?
Excuse
look at your
me?
Or
neighbor's
just
butthole.
or just order a stranger to your doorstep.
Yeah, or that.
I think
don't
you could
like-
do that for a long time.
Yeah, but that was by phone, not by internet. Now you
Yeah.
can just do it on the
So,
internet.
apparently, Gavin
those
is
damn
old enough to remember some other
1900s.
things.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how you order a straight. Anyway, I don't want to give YouTube a copy of my passport, driver's license, government issued
Sure.
digital ID. I don't want to do any of those things to prove to YouTube that I'm a Canadian. So if
Yeah.
I don't do that, does that mean that Canadian Patriot Podcast would not fall under the Canadian content because I'm not willing to go through the process to prove that it's Canadian? So in the
Well-
YouTube search algorithm, when you type in like Canadian podcasts, Canadian Patriot Podcast doesn't rank because I haven't gone through the verification process to prove that I am a
No.
Canadian content creator.
Call
Which would
me-
be terrible because we do have the metrics to prove that we're number one.
Call me naive, but can they just not tell from the IP address that it's being streamed from that it's in Canada?
Oh, not in my case, no.
Okay. I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I
I
was
was
like,
about to say that-
I'm
that-
pretty
but then
sure.
so-
I'm pretty
Remember,
sure
if
normally.
If you're using the internet without using a VPN, that's like going to a bar and not bringing a condom.
Yeah.
What?
Clearly,
Yeah.
we go to different bars.
Apparently.
But what if it's a joint thing where you have
No
one
marijuana
person from
discussion on tonight's show, please.
well, one,
Oh.
one person from one country and then other people from Canada and so on and so forth, right? Does that qualify as Canadian content?
So how many
I mean,
of
it
the
starts to get
panelists
very
need to prove they're
complicated.
Canadian?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Like if just
right.
one person goes through the verification steps, does that allow everybody to be part of it?
Yeah. I don't know. And this is the problem, right? There's a lot of what ifs. to
Well,
the
there
whole
there
thing.
are certainly some what ifs, but there is also some stuff that is not in this article, but is elsewhere on the internet. As a content creator, this is problematic because I don't want to give random companies on the internet my personally identifying information as much as I can avoid it, right? If I could not use my real identity on the internet like it was 1992 anymore, I mean, that would be my preference. But the internet doesn't work like that. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and so on, for encouraging people to use their real names on the internet, which has been truly terrible.
And only being able to use any app as long as your location is shared and stored.
Well, and again, like I would, if I can opt out of these things or put it behind a VPN or
Yeah.
otherwise give it misleading information about my actual location,
Then
sure,
you
all
choose to
things
do
you
that.
should probably do. Yeah.
Yes.
I- don't go on the internet without a VPN.
Okay.
Don't let apps have more permission than they absolutely need to have. And then even then, like if you could not use a smartphone, that would probably be better. I understand it's inconvenient for a lot of things, but man,
mean,
smartphones are an awful piece of technology.
Bring
Yeah.
back T9 texting.
So here's the thing though, is that so up until recently, my parents, they've toggled back and forth between, good old flip phones and smartphones, right? They get fed up with technology, so then they get flip phones, and then they realize their flip phones can only do so much. So they get a smartphone. But the flip phones are not like they used to be. Like they're just as jacked. The only difference is that you can't get apps, but that's about it.
Well,
Like-
it's all jack. It
Yeah.
it depends on who has access to the information.
Yeah.
So the cell phone in of itself, that people running the cell phone, like Rogers, Bell, Telus, Shaw, whoever has the cell phone towers knows
Mhm.
everything about the cell phone and everything that's going on with it. Yeah, up to a certain amount. And you can do some obfuscation things. But just don't give third parties your personally identifying information if you
Yeah.
can at all avoid it, which is into my next point on the consumption side of this, because of the how do you stop people from consuming content that they shouldn't have access to, like oh, I don't know, say you wanted to watch some spicy content on OnlyFriends as an example,
Okay.
As one does, apparently.
as some people may choose to do.
Yeah.
So if you log into your OnlyFriends account and you want to subscribe to a
Yeah.
content creator to
Andrew.
see some things, how do you prove to OnlyFriends that you're who you say you are and you're not my 6-year-old kid, right?
Most people, I still stand by the thing that most people don't have VPNs redirecting their IP address.
Well, no, but this isn't a VPN problem. This is
No.
a general. So I'm saying I'm Canadian and I'm doing the
Yeah.
thing and I'm going along with my life, and I want to log in and see I want to watch some YouTube videos.
Sure.
And it says YouTube's got like some content moderation.
Mhm.
Says this is like 18 plus content. They cuss a lot and they drink and they show nudity on the internet. Clearly not our podcast, but 2 out of 3 is not bad, right? It would count
Yeah,
as
still a
A+.
pass.
Yeah.
So how do I prove to YouTube as a consumer of this content that I am not a minor who is under 18 who shouldn't be exposed to profanity and alcohol and boobies?
Oh, well, the same way that they currently do it now when you log into like the LCBO website, you tick a box that says, I certify that I
you
am
would
over
think
19.
that would be sufficient. You would think that, but you would be wrong
Right.
if you read the content of Bill C.
Well,
C11.
absolutely.
Well,
'cause I
because no
think
one
that
would ever
every-
lie.
Yeah, I was
No.
like, every time I see
And-
that on the LCBO website, I'm like, this is stupid.
But this is literally in C11 though, is this is what
Yeah.
they want to do to get around that, because you can just tick the box that says I'm doing the thing that I'm allowed to
Yeah.
do, which apparently doesn't stop children from viewing things on the internet they're not supposed to be able to view.
Shocker.
figure.
Even before the internet, it didn't stop us from doing things we weren't supposed to do because dial
Yeah,
bottle was a thing, and we used to
it-
just be, yeah, dad's upstairs.
It's almost like you just need better parenting rather than technological safeguards.
That was actually something though that I was thinking about. We talk about that in terms of, there's conversations about gun control, there's conversations about, censorship, all of this stuff. They fail to continually recognize that the only element that is constant in these conversations is people. And, maybe focus on reducing the amount of bad people.
Yes, we should definitely
Not
reduce the amount of.
people.
I'm sure
but-
there are people in positions of authority that would like to reduce your carbon footprint.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
on a serious note though, there's like some serious social and like just overall moral issues with society at large that are being just glazed over. It's like putting a band-aid over top of a giant sliver in your arm.
Yes, but in
Doesn't work.
this case, the Band-Aid is more like duct tape, and it's going to be over our mouths because we're not going to be able to provide the commentary about how the government is doing these things. We're just going to get blacklisted. Can you say
Yeah.
that? Is that racist?
Yeah, we can say
Mm.
that.
It
Well,
doesn't
it's fine.
matter.
I mean, we should switch it to white.
I mean, we
whitelisted.
might-
Nobody will get offended by that.
We might get some
That
listener
just means-
feedback next week,
well,
but
Whatever. I don't like Jerry anyway.
there you go.
So the consumer side of this problem, the other piece that I was trying to get to, the digital tokenization aspect of this. So if we have our digital ID and our tokenization, dare I say, and my tinfoil may be on a little tight, but social credit score.
Yeah.
If this is all tied together, and you're the kind of person that uses your digital ID to say things that you disagree with the current government, you
Mhm.
don't like the shiniest pony socks, you want to do all the things that Charlie Sheen might do on the weekend, would the government then prevent you from using your digital token to do other things like access banking or other media or turn off your Netflix or your Tesla car? Or
I definitely
Well,
think that
recently we've
it's
seen them
a
turning off
slippery slope.
thermostats.
Leave
Yeah,
and or
that's
yeah,
true.
leave and or enter the country or do
Right. So and
anything.
I'm not saying that the digital token to let you log into YouTube to watch the other than Canadian content is the thing that's going to be like they're going to, but this
It's a
this is
slippery
one
slope.
more
Yeah,
step
but-
in that direction
Yeah.
that now I have a specific piece of identification, a unique identifier, not unlike my
Yeah.
driver's license or passport, that the government
But-
or some agent, in this
But-
case the CRTC, can decide to flag and say, you have unkind
Well-
thoughts about the government. We're just not going to let you participate in the social discourse. You're not. You're violating community standards on the internet. We're just not going to let you participate in that
Well, and that's
community on the
where
internet.
if we have a digital token like this that is verified by the federal government as ours, I can definitely imagine a lot of people would start using this as your verification to log
Yes.
into your bank and do the other things. So while it may not be your bank account number and all of that, it will be tied to that and tied to
Sure.
everything else because everything is going digital. So why would we have 12 different systems when we could have one system that ties it all together?
Well, and
So-
my thing with that is not that that doesn't currently exist now because you are your metadata, but I
It's
would prefer
different.
that they have to work for it. I don't
Yeah.
want to give them the primary key to everything when they would have to
Exactly.
work on building that profile on their
Each
own.
thing would have to shut you down individually right now.
Right. So
as
if I get
opposed
kicked
to-
off of Facebook for violating Facebook community standards, that's one thing. If
Mhm.
I get kicked off the internet for violating what the government says because I have unkind things to say about the shiniest of ponies, this is a whole other set of problems. And we're well aware that
Well,
the shiniest
and-
of ponies doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
believe in the freedom of expression the same way that you or I might.
Well, that and does all of this, like, if this all goes through, is all of this retroactive? Right?
Well, likely,
Like,
once it's on the internet, it's on the internet forever.
well,
Again,
but that's the
$5 a
thing.
month.
So, like,
Yeah.
here you are saying something today that's completely legal, and a year from now,
Yeah, I get
the
what you're
thing
saying.
that you said in the past,
Well, we've
is
definitely
now-
seen it cancel other people, but
yeah,
you know, I think one of the biggest problems though is that folks. Okay, so we all agree with what this could be leading up to, I think, or the slippery slope that it kind of puts us all on. I think so anyway. But one of the biggest things is that, you know, we as people, as consumers of the internet, as users of these tools, are not willing to deal with the inconvenience of not having them in our lives. Or,
Yes and no.
well, I think that maybe you, or maybe I, or Gavin, or Pierre, or some of the listeners, sure. But I mean, I don't know.
I'd be a lot more willing to be excluded from these various platforms if I could just actually be excluded and left alone,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
right? Like, okay, so I'm not allowed on Facebook anymore, and I'm okay with that. I don't
Yeah.
like that I'm not allowed on Facebook. I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of things that are going on in various communities because of my lack of social media access, and I'm okay with that right now. But when I like get my digital token banned and I'm not allowed to
Mhm.
use my bank anymore, and I lose access to my life savings,
Sure. Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah.
a lot less happy about that than not being able to like post spicy memes.
But so I guess what I'm saying though is that, you know, aside from a few people And I'm going to say a few just because, I think that there's not as many people that are paying attention to the legislative process and what's actually going through it right now, just in general, not just C11, but there's a bunch of other ones too. But there's also a bunch of people that are not motivated to actually look forward and say, well, could lead into that, and
Yeah, well,
we
it's very
look at it.
short-sighted. It's very
Yeah,
short-sighted.
we
And
look
it's
at
all
that.
through this lens of like child protectionism, which
Absolutely.
I'm all for the kids, man. Children are the future.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
want people to abuse children. I think if you touch kids, you should go feet first into the wood chipper, and I'd be happy to be
Well,
the guy
and
that pushes.
I think that
Yeah.
most people are like that. And like aside from the
Aside from the
folks
wood
that
chipper.
aside
Yeah.
from the folks that belong there, I think most people see that, and that is part of the manipulation, right? There's twofold to this manipulation is like, smoke and mirrors, show them something that they can champion, but also keep them occupied with other things so that they don't ever actually pay attention to what's going on.
I mean,
Well,
bread and
and-
circuses is an important aspect of running a failing society.
Well, and
Yeah.
the problem like with this is like the massive privacy violations, the ability, like the slippery slope of being able to lock you out of everything. And if you raise concerns about it, they go, "What, you don't want to stop pedophiles?" You're like, I mean, I do,
Yeah,
but
right?
like, how does this do that? It doesn't. Just like the gun control thing, right? Like, it's like, but don't you want to save the children and the
Mhm.
missing Indigenous women? You're like, well, it's like not that I don't want to help those people, but also like, how does this do that?
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's the same thing, right? But they just start going, oh, well, if you don't want to protect the children and you want to expose them to pornography, meanwhile, like all
but
the
this
other
comes back
stuff
to
that's
the
going
comment that I
on.
made
But like,
earlier. Is this
yeah.
is the way to stop exposing children to things they shouldn't be exposed to is to have active parents rather
Yes.
than relying
Yeah.
on the state.
And
Yes.
that is the problem, right? But I don't know, like there's so many things that I could talk about in regards to just parenting and how the social system has, taken a giant shit.
Well,
I don't know. I don't like it.
should we talk about how the social system is failing us in other ways?
I mean,
That's what we
sure,
do every
that's-
Monday, isn't
I
it?
was gonna say, I was like, we could go on and on for that.
Yes. Recently, I heard that this is a long Joe Rogan style podcast that could go for 3 hours, and then we got hate mail. So I don't know what happens when the kids like are in charge and I'm gone for the day, but that's fine.
We did a
Yeah.
bunch of DMT and ate elk.
Was it good elk? Man, I want some elk.
Yeah.
I
When is
totally
elk
have some
not
elk.
good?
Yeah. Okay.
We actually soaked the elk in the DMT.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then we just did a
National-
bunch of jujitsu after. It's good.
It's great. It's great.
I'm on board. National Post article. Activists load up ballot in Toronto area by-election with 40 candidates to protest Trudeau.
How did that work out?
Funny but
did-
ineffective.
The votes today, so we'll find out how it actually
Okay.
went.
Yes, this was just on Friday. The early voting happened, and someone violated the integrity of our Elections Act by taking a photo of the ballot and posting it on Twitter, Instagram, some sort of social media. I don't know. I had to
Yeah.
get it secondhand. I got
Yeah. So this is my riding, so I voted in this. I didn't take the photo though because I don't break rules like that.
no.
Um,
I know that this was also the photo was on the 9th, and I know
Yeah.
you were not on the early polling, but it was a very large sheet of paper.
Oh,
like
yeah.
a
When I went, I was
newspaper
like-
print size piece of paper.
Like normally they
insane.
give you something that's like credit card-ish size, like maybe
sure.
small notepad size.
Mhm.
This was like a legal form. Like it was
as
like
an aside, why does Elections Canada use different sizes of paper? Why are they not just printing everything on standard size paper?
It
Like,
probably
there's
depends
a
on
lot
how
of
many.
things that I like. So I went.
Well,
Do you not care about the trees?
I do, but how many extra trees do they have to go through? Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
just
and they're
take a
still
normal
doing.
size piece of paper.
They're
and,
still
like, how
doing
they-
the like everyone gets their own pencil thing too, right?
Oh, good. I'm
Yeah,
glad we're
'cause
stopping the spread
COVID.
of COVID by using individual
Yeah.
golf pencils.
oh my gosh.
Oh, these were full size ones this time around.
What?
Think
My
of
writing
the children.
cheaps out.
Yeah. There's Big old full-size pencil, not painted though, just like bare wood, because they're saving a penny or two there. But yeah,
Oh.
full-size pencils.
Wow.
But there was a lot of things I had issues with this whole thing. Like,
You know what though? I find this entertaining because our
Oh.
elections are a mockery, like a mockery
Oh.
of our political system. So why not just make every election like this,
So-
where you just have the giant sheet of paper with like
Yeah.
made up stuff on it? The
Yeah.
outcome would be the same. We would still have a clown for a prime minister, but at
Yeah.
least this way it's funny.
yeah. But I mean, so I
Guess
went.
so.
I went on the last day, almost right at the end of the day of the advance polls. So while I'm there, we had to go in the mall close by to do it. We're walking
Gross.
past like the Elections Canada office that's separate from like the polling station, and they're running like training. I was like, how much training do these guys need? Like, there's only one more day after this, and it's like the actual election day. It's like,
Well,
can't these
I
people
don't
have
know.
already been trained by now? Like, this is
So personal anecdote. I had the opportunity to work for Elections Canada at a polling place several
hear that.
elections ago. You know what though? For like $100 for the day or whatever
Yeah.
in college, it was like it wasn't a bad 1 day gig.
No.
The issue that we ran into was actually that like because of the limited availability and the number of volunteers, you might be like training the day or two before the day that you work. So I could totally understand that we're doing
Okay.
training like the night before.
I don't know. I just found it weird. It's like you've run this thing for like
Mhm.
5 days already, and here we are, like at the 11th hour, if you will, and you're still putting people
Yes,
through
but the
training.
people that are going to be there on actual
Yeah.
election day may not have been working any of the advanced polls because of the way they
Yeah.
spread their
Better, they maybe
volunteers out,
needed
which I
special handling instructions for the giant fucking ballot.
it could be the giant ballot. I'm not going to give Elections Canada a hard time about that because getting people to work to do the elections polling stuff is actually super hard, and I make it a point of making their life extra difficult because I go into the polling
Yeah.
place and I parlez-vous enough français to make them have to do extra work because they say hello, bonjour, and I say bonjour, comment ça va? And then
Yeah.
they're like tabernacle, and then they have to deal with me in French because I can do it. I can parlez-vous badly long enough to pretend to do it in French.
Right.
It's not passable, but like
I like to give them my firearms license as ID, which always kind of
Excellent.
confuses them.
very
Yeah.
funny.
Yes.
I did that
Very
once
funny.
to get a police check done.
Yeah. The lady was like, "Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna start doing that more often.
is this for long guns or short guns?" I was like, "It's for both." Cool. And she's just like,
My favorite part is that
Here's your giant
she
ballot.
kind of knew the difference, and B, that's a weird question to ask.
well,
I feel like Evan's correct response should have been to say it was personal and decline to provide further personal details without a
yeah,
digital government token. But
yeah. Can
neither
I
here
see
nor
your
there.
digital token to confirm that you are a real person?
Oh, gosh.
And worthy of the information that I'm about to provide.
Well,
Yeah.
So
It's okay,
thing
Chris.
that
I know
did-
my address wasn't on there. I had my my registration card with me.
That's good.
Pierre,
Yeah, have your registration.
You know that your video's off, right?
Yeah.
Because he's
Okay.
taking his pants off.
Oh.
You're
Well.
implying I had some on.
No,
No, I turned it off. I've got, I guess, a bit of a cold starting or whatever. So it was like sneezing, like and everything, like there's no tomorrow. So I took the video off and put myself on mute for a little bit.
That's fair.
Yeah, no,
appreciate you respecting the audio quality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the giant ballot was absolutely ridiculous. Like, it was
The
just like,
thing that I learned from this, the thing I learned from the giant ballot is you don't actually need to live in the riding in order to run for MP for that riding, which is
Yeah.
news to me. I did not realize that that was the case. I thought you had to live in the riding,
I thought
Nope.
so too.
which explains a lot of stuff about why some MPs are in the ridings that they're in.
yes,
Mhm. Yeah, like Jagmeet Singh is way out in what, BC?
yeah,
Burnaby, British Columbia,
Yeah,
if I'm
yeah.
not mistaken,
but
which is a suburb of
when he-
Vancouver for those of you on the East Coast.
Yeah, when he originally, I think, went for when he started getting into politics and stuff like that and being a community leader, he was like friggin' the GTA. That's where he's
But
from.
But
Because
then
the first time I
figured-
ever met that dude was at a totally different event. And yeah, anyways.
yeah,
He-
but I
he
think
I
they
don't
probably-
know
of
what
course,
bar
of
does he
course.
frequent. I'm curious.
Pardon?
yeah they put like key people of the party in strong ridings that they know
Yeah.
are gonna win.
So I realized that, but I thought they had
Yeah.
to like. I was under the impression that this was
That they
way
had to
more
move
work than it
there
was actually
too?
was. I thought
Yeah.
they like at least had to like update their firearms license address to say that they lived in that riding.
You see, that's the thing, is that none of these people have those. So
Right. Well, yes. I was being sarcastic.
Yeah, I know.
And
It was even offered to them for free, and they still didn't bother doing it.
yeah.
I am surprised at how shockingly easy it is to get on the ballot. I thought there was a greater barrier to entry than this.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
40 people. Is that right?
40 people in this by-election in Mississauga.
Okay,
Yep.
so then how many of them, like, what party did like essentially
Independent.
sabotaged? Okay, it's all independent.
They were like, of the 40 people, like 37 of them were like independent.
That's
And of those
hilarious.
37, most of them weren't in Mississauga.
Yeah.
I mean, not a bad political attempt.
But I mean, this was to replace the liberal guy Sven something or other that like basically
Doesn't
won
work
the
for
election.
UN now or something.
Yeah, and then vacated to go work at the UN. And I was kind of curious about this the other day, but somebody brought it to my attention that basically, if you win 3 elections, you get your pension. You don't have to serve 3 terms, you just have to win 3 elections. So
What?
I would
Is that
have to
his
look and
third?
see, but I imagine that this was his 3rd. And that's
Damn.
why
Wow.
he won and then stepped down, as opposed to like stepping down.
Before winning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it was like
that makes sense.
the election, and then like not long after is when he stepped down, and it was like, this is the biggest waste of money. Like, it's not like the guy had a heart attack or whatever. And like, I imagine if you're applying to the UN, you kind of know that you've applied to the UN. So why would you run in the thing?
In case you didn't get the UN job, you still got a backup.
Yeah, just I don't know. But yeah, I have a feeling it was probably I'm gonna win the election and then step down so that I get my pension.
I mean, I can't fault him for good fiscal policy. I would, if you told me I
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
like win a popularity contest to get a pension, I'd be like, yeah, fucking vote for me. And
Yeah.
peace out. I'm going to work for the UN or whatever.
Yeah.
How many elections? I guess 2015, 2019, and 2021.
Yeah.
That's his 3rd one.
So does it have to be 3
Sven-
consecutive?
Spengeman.
So I mean,
You
this
just
guy
need
could have
to
been in
win
politics.
3
in general.
elections.
Yeah.
So over 20 years, you win 3 times, you get a pension.
Yes. Or over a much shorter period if you have minority governments and they go to the polls sooner.
Yeah, but I was just curious if it had to be 3 consecutive or just
No,
3 in general.
Just 3.
Brutal.
Oh, okay, so that's even worse.
Yeah.
Not that anything government is good to start with.
Oof. It's a party.
Yep.
Well, I think I'm going to be running for some elections.
I
Yeah.
support
Pension.
this.
If the trick is to do paperwork, I'm willing to fill out the form.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
I could do that pretty easily.
I have a great platform to run on. Slash it.
Well, I guess so. In that vein, the reason that there are 40 people on this ballot is because Justin Trudeau failed to follow through on electoral reform, and enough people are unhappy that they've got 37 independents that are on the ballot
so,
because of
Yeah.
electoral reform.
but like,
Yeah.
so what's also
Because-
the what's the fuck? We were just talking about it. It's kind of a big word.
Whiskey,
No, that's an easy
Tabernacle?
word. I know that one. No, pension.
Okay.
pension.
Okay, maybe not that long. So what's the pension program for 3 elections? One, like, so is
You,
I'm
you get
just-
full pension for life or whatever, like whatever the government deal is.
That's insane.
yeah. So I'm very curious about the details of this. pension program, because that was, as much as I never ever want to be a politician, because politicians suck, if I can get some of my tax money back via pension, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I guess my question is then, is that like, does the pension start at a certain age for the government then? Like, he's not gonna get it automatically just because he won the
is he?
third one,
Yeah.
is it?
Yes.
So, okay, so like a 60-year-old or a 50-year-old man who's won his third election versus a 25-year-old. Well, that's unrealistic, but
So
a
I'm looking at the thing
35-year-old.
right now. So member contribution, the rates combined rate of 23.34% of pay. At 55, they can retire.
Okay, so at 55 is when they can start collecting.
But
I was
even if
gonna
you
say.
decide to, yeah, but if you do that until you figure out this loophole way before the age that I am now, and by the age of 30, this has happened. That's a
Yeah.
guaranteed bank as long as you don't end up in the gulag
Yeah.
before you're at that age.
Or the
Yeah.
country bankrupt.
Well, yeah, but it's a government pension. You're still gonna get it. They'll just print it out. It's different than a bank,
That's true,
right?
sort of.
Well,
Yeah, I'm gonna allow it.
You're
Allow it.
gonna allow it.
yeah,
Okay.
but it's okay. I mean, kind of just curious on that.
One,
Yeah.
one more reasonably quickly. Yeah. I think for reasons that we'll probably get into next week, because it just dropped today and I'm not caught up on today's news. I think we are beginning to see the end of the Liberal NDP alliance.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last week, Big Dick Singh got out and said that the NDP is not going to support the Bill C-21 amendment because it violates the treaty rights of our First Nations peoples.
Yeah, nothing to do with every other.
What the fuck?
fucking
I love
law-abiding
communism now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Canadian. Yeah, but the giant part out of this article, which is not long, but he just comes out and says,
Pension.
yeah, that too. No, that was the other article. But he believes in treaty and land rights, and he does not want to support this because it goes against treaty rights for the First Nations. But what about every other law-abiding Canadian that
Ooh.
owns any of these?
You
Well,
don't
no,
matter.
Yeah.
You're not a native unless you've got a status card, in which case I apologize profusely.
Then
Then
you
you
That means a
have-
lot.
Then you have then you actually have some form of firearm rights in this country if you have a status
Yeah.
card.
But
Yeah.
just, I mean, at the
Because
same time, I thought that even if this ban, Bill C-21 does go through, that it would not affect any person on a reserve doing what they do on reserves, because technically Canadian law doesn't exactly apply to most of reserve laws, unless
It's
I
true.
misunderstood that.
Kinda,
you're right.
sort of, not
Sort of.
exactly.
It's kind of like two separate worlds. It really kind of is.
Yeah.
They have like certain statutes that they have to like abide by on the res, and that's why some reses have police forces of their
Yeah,
own.
but I'm just saying, right?
know?
So let's say C-21 came into law tomorrow, which is hopefully not anybody listening saying, "Hey, look, the Canadian guys said we should do it." But if this came into effect, so people on a reserve, anywhere in Canada, would anything change as long as they stayed on the reserve, right? Would they be
Probably
able to
not
take?
in a particularly measurable way. I think where the problem is going to come into this is how to obtain new firearms on the
Yeah.
reserve.
It's true.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the bigger issue, because
Yeah, because they're not
not being
required.
an expert in this by any means, but I
Yeah.
think the way that a lot of laws get applied on the reserve versus the rest of the country are very different. I think this may vary significantly from
Yeah.
one reserve to the next.
Likely.
But I think that there's a lot of traditional hunting that takes place on a lot of reserves that use
Drones?
methods that
Yeah.
various ministries of natural resources would disagree with were I to go and do them on public land.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that Indigenous folks, they can hunt year round without tags,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
As
as
long
Yeah,
is
as
no,
it's
tradition.
no
Right.
license,
no
no
license, no
No
nothing.
limit.
no off
nothing.
season.
Yeah,
And I'm
and
Nope.
fairly certain that like as long as they are on the res, they do not even require a firearms license to
They
hunt
don't.
with firearms.
for my
So-
understanding, they don't.
And they can
Well-
also use the traditional drone.
Yes,
Yeah,
also probably without a license.
So the other thing
As
about
long
that,
as they name
though,
it Eagle Eye.
the other thing about that is that it's not always just like a cultural thing. For some folks, it's quite very much like a survival thing.
And
Oh,
I'm not knocking
You know.
that, and I don't want to get into the indigenous
No,
rights
no,
thing a whole
no,
lot.
no,
but,
no.
like,
But
they are. It
but
is
it's a
different,
whole
and it is
other-
treated differently.
Yes,
and in a lot of
absolutely.
cases,
Yeah.
there's a very valid reason.
well, sure.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
that's-
there's a
their
legal.
circumstances aside,
Yeah.
they are in a situation where
Yeah.
they may need to hunt more due to food
Yeah.
scarcity. Do they need to live where they live? That's a whole other debate. But
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not going
And
to get into
for,
that part.
for better or worse, the government has signed legal documents with these
Yeah.
people that
I mean,
entitle
these
them.
people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, ooh,
I don't know. It's referring to them.
careful,
'Cause
Don
they all
Cherry
have-
got
The
fired.
ghost of Don Cherry is going to be right on you.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But they've signed the treaties and
Yeah,
things
it's
with
true.
them so that like there is an actual legal document that entitles the different groups to various things depending on which
Yes.
particular tribe they are part of and what
And
legal documents.
shocker, the Canadian government has not followed through on their side of that. But
No, but this is
You
one
know.
way that I guess works
They
sort
ju-
of in the favor of this bill is that like, yeah, in order to respect these treaties.
well, they
Yes,
have
but
a
no.
really
Yeah.
good they have a really good social justice like element to their claim, right? You know, like it's
You
not
got
just
wood
people
chippers?
saying it's no.
I
It's
wish.
not just people saying, you know, oh, hey, that's my right to own a firearm, it's my right to hunt, like all these things. They're like, hey, we're the indigenous people, you know, the Canadian government has already harmed us so much. Like there's just that added layer that
Yes.
whether
And
we
the
agree with it or not,
100% going to play into that, which I get
Yeah.
because it's a voting base and it's a block that
Yeah.
they can get to
Yeah.
support them.
absolutely.
And at the end of the day, none of it really matters.
No.
Not the province. None of this really matters.
Yeah.
Because the NDP and Singh can say all they want that they don't support the amendment and they don't support the bill, but that doesn't mean there aren't going to be NDP MPs that vote in favor of it, amendment or not.
Yeah. Just like
But
they
it may not be a whipped vote, which
It may not be a whip vote, which we're also seeing with the Liberal caucus. There's also been at least
Yeah.
one, I think we might be up to 2 Liberal backbenchers now that have publicly said that they are not in favor of the bill with this amendment.
Well, and
Yeah.
you know what, some of the folks that have been verbally like very outgoing in opposing it, they've been saying the things that I think some of us recognize. It's not that it's anti, you know, gun crime and stuff like that. You know, nobody wants gun crime, but that it's actually like a slippery slope. Who is regulating
Well,
that stuff? Who is actually
the
going to be able to?
government.
the problem
Yeah.
is though is that a lot of the people that are speaking out about it are speaking out about it because it does go after hunting stuff.
Yeah.
And that's their problem with it, not the massive overreach of the bill as a whole, but
Yeah.
of the amendments. And
I
that's
was-
my
I was
issue.
having this conversation with somebody the other day, and I'm glad that there are more people that are becoming aware of this and on board with this. I still really am disappointed that there aren't 2 million Canadians that can't vote as a bloc because they're too
Yeah.
self-absorbed or politically
Fuddy.
inept to understand that there are 2 million Canadians that could vote as a bloc, and we could
Yeah.
basically do whatever we wanted with this country if we could get our shit together. But
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can't because most of these people are
No.
not helpful.
Well, and yeah,
But
I mean,
the bigger issue with this is it's just a firearm. There's
Yeah.
it's
there's
a tool.
absolutely no reason that I, as a daily licensed vetted firearms owner, I go through CPIC every day and I get my background checked done every day and I make sure that I'm not a criminal every day and I've gone through all of the
yeah.
licenses and training, and I follow all of the storage and transportation regulations. I do all of these other things. There is no practical reason why I can't have a fully automatic firearm in my possession. Aside from the government says I can't because it's scary,
Yeah.
there is nothing that is intrinsically more dangerous about me having a belt-fed M2 in my living room than me owning a single-shot hunting rifle.
Exactly.
Still just a gun.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, admittedly, one of them is way more expensive and a lot more fun to shoot. But
Yes.
Yeah, but we kind of talked about that already. It's like it has to do with the social breakdown and like the moral guiding compasses of people that the
country has no
government
morals.
doesn't.
This country is morally as morally bankrupt as we are financially bankrupt. P.S. Enjoy your what were another 0.5% of interest.
Yep.
Yep.
Another 0.5%.
Yeah, but
Demi.
that's the thing though, right? Is it, like you want to talk about real solutions? It's
Wood
not
chippers.
well.
Yeah.
I mean, but who decides who gets in the wood chipper? Knowing
Me.
my
We
luck,
do.
I'd end up in there.
No,
No, we have firearms, therefore we get to
I
decide.
don't
At least
want
that's
to
the
look at your
argument the
search
government is
history if you're
using.
worried about that.
Like the ultimate argument still comes down to force. Who has and is willing to use force to get their political means met?
I smell revolution.
No, I'm not proposing a revolution. I'm just saying that historically, the people that end up running
true.
things are the people that are willing to exercise violence on the people who are not.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, like I don't put much stock in, like I'm very critical of people that don't get out and vote, but I'm also
Yes,
very, yeah, I'm also very like I don't expect it to change anything
but no.
because
It's like we're voting for how crap. Wow, alcohol.
I was gonna
We're
say-
voting for
Well done.
how fast we get to crash the airplane.
Yeah,
Do we want to crash it slowly or quick? There's no one voting to not crash the fucking plane.
What and that
And
is
that-
the
that's
problem,
the
right?
problem.
And you even said it that 2 million people are not coming together to vote as a
No.
block in a force because people are really short-sighted.
But like if you can't even put like the minimalist amount of effort to do something that's even remotely in your favor, then like you kind of get what you deserve.
Yes,
And like-
but I agree with you. I understand the position that you're taking.
But you should still do.
Why should I go and vote when it is not going to do anything? Like, why am I feeding into the system? Why am I putting any effort into going to vote when I know voting does not give me any outcomes that I
Because
want?
regardless of whether you do
what
anything
you
or
want,
not, you're still
you might be able to
unfortunately
slow the
forced to
crash.
live within the system unless you pull an Uncle Ted and
But I'm
build a
forced to
little
live within
cabin.
the system anyway.
Yeah,
What
so you
difference
may
does
as
it make
well
which
at least
if I
try
pull
to.
if I pull the lever for the clowns on the left or I pull the lever for the clowns on the right? Why am I pulling the lever at all? Which I think is a really great argument for why we should just have the vote don't, like, if you don't get enough people to vote, you shouldn't get a passing election. But this goes back to why we have 40
Yeah.
people running for a by-election in Mississauga. We shouldn't have the people running this government that we have running this government because the way that we elect them is
It's
not.
trash.
Yeah.
I don't
But-
see how it's a valid system other than the fact that it's the current system.
Well, because it allows 40 people to run into by.
Which, well, funny does not fix the issue.
No,
No.
it absolutely doesn't.
But
Because at bare
if
minimum,
we
it
don't
gets-
I mean, we either have to all participate or none of us participate. It's an all or nothing thing.
Yeah,
No,
it's
I
true.
absolutely disagree. I absolutely disagree. Fewer people should be involved in an election. Most people are not
Yes.
qualified to speak on politics. We are people who spend weeks reading the news and doing political analysis. And I would argue that most of us, particularly me, are barely qualified, if at all, to actually
Yeah.
vote in a
Yes,
competent sort of way.
I am not
But-
qualified. I kind of
Yes, but in the current
I
system that
siphoned
we
through a lot of
have,
it, yeah.
But
we
the
either have
system
to
is
all-
broken and defective and should be
Yeah.
put out to
Yep.
pasture.
but that's where we either need to all be involved or all not involved so that we can do something about the system. If only a handful of us are like, meh,
Wood chippers.
well, yeah.
So I'll work on that deal. But little side thing about Bill C-21, right? So when the handgun ban freeze came into effect, I had a person I work for call me, and they were like, "I got a feeling you would know answers. You know, he's not a member of a range. He lives in Ontario. it's like, I've wanted a pistol for a while, but never got it because I'm not part of a range. I was like, we're the only province you can't, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, a gun he's wanted, the guy's got it, decent price, this, that. I was just, if you've got the funds, buy it, right? Like 100%. And then I had a different coworker call me last week about Bill C-21 coming through, and he's an avid hunter. He's not a big sports shooter. Nothing against him. And we started talking. He's like, so what does this, take into effect? So we started talking about some of the details, about anything magazine fed that can hold this, and I was like, if there's an aftermarket magazine for it that can accept it, like it would ban it, and this, that. So he was like, where would I start looking to, sign any petitions or whatever? And then we got into the subject about like, I hate to call you out on this, but like, where the fuck were you when the OIC came out, right? Like it didn't affect you and your hunting buddies. And you were like, well, I didn't understand, which I was like, okay, no problem. Like, I get that, which, I mean, that's a whole complete different side thing that, a gun owner, whether you're just a FUD hunter or whatever, don't understand and comprehend the whole Firearms Act is kind of up for debate considering things.
See, this is why we can't get 2 million people to vote in the right way, because we can't get 2 million people to be like aware, like self-interested enough. They're self-interested. Don't get me wrong. They're like
in themselves,
100% navel gazing, but they're not self-interested enough to be like politically aware and active with regards to what's going on.
Understand, the thing, because like my parents were out at a dinner the other night, and my mother, who is not a fan of guns, was stuck sitting next to somebody that they know is a big hunter. So she was asking him like what he thought about this gun ban thing, and he doesn't even know that it's happening.
Brutal.
Right. So I mean, I will give the guy I work with, I'll give him one thing that he actually said, like, I wish I understood a lot more when that came out to be there for people. And I was like, the OIC, I was like, maybe didn't really affect me, allegedly, maybe not allegedly.
But this is the thing.
But
so they wish they would have known more then. Why didn't they go and investigate then? They're asking you questions now that it affects them, but they didn't ask you questions back then when they were like, what the fuck is this?
Because most people are incredibly self-absorbed and are only worried about their next 3 meals.
Well, actually, I think, yes, there is that, Andrew. I think that everybody has a tinge of that. Everybody does.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love my next 3 meals. Like,
sure,
the next thing I eat is my favorite meal.
Right.
No.
But I think that it speaks to like everybody's like, got their own little selfish little thing going. And that's not necessarily awful. Where I think we kind of see the breakdown happen is that people inherently are not interested in the movement that this country is making and the movement that society is making. Because you're right. Okay, a lot of people don't know about it. Well, why don't they know about it? Well, it didn't impact them directly, but they should have been. No, it didn't impact them directly. But then we say, well, they should have been, paying attention to it. Why would they pay attention to it if they're not actively engaging in their civic responsibility? In my opinion, civic responsibility to understand or at least pay attention.
This is my point that most people shouldn't be allowed to vote because they're not politically aware enough. They're not aware of the goings on of the day. Never mind, even mind politics. Most people aren't just aware of what's going on in the world around them, like in their immediate 60-foot circle, around them.
So a town, example. A town, okay, or a municipality or a region.
I don't even mean that much. Most Canadians don't know who their neighbors are.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that the average person only starts bitching when something bad happens in their own neighborhood, in their own town, their own municipality. But by that point, whoever is the authority of that area, it could even be, your neighborhood watch. I don't give a shit. But whoever it is that's kind of that authority, they've already put time, energy, and money into enacting this. And by the time people get to their, high horse and say, oh, I don't like that. Why didn't anybody ask me? That's the problem. Well, somebody probably did ask you. And there probably was a place that if you had gotten on your website and maybe looked up, a website somewhere, they would have said what's happening right now. And you could have known about it a long time ago.
Well, what if you're in my case? You're not allowed on Facebook. You're not allowed to know about your local political goings-ons.
Yeah, most town websites will tell you what's going on. You could
You're
just
gonna
go to
have
the
to get your
website.
digital ID token, Andrew, and then
I'm gonna have to get my
verify your
digital
identity.
ID
Yeah.
token.
Like-
I'm either gonna have to get a digital ID token or a machine gun, one or the other.
And I
What
mean,
if one
you can
gets you
get
the
on,
other?
you can get on a mailing list from your municipality and they send you out updates.
I don't want to get on that. Then they'll know where
Yeah,
I
that,
live.
that sounds terrible. That sounds like the
Well,
worst
no,
possible.
I mean, for the most part, if you pay taxes, then they already know where you live. So there's
Well, let's
that.
not
Also-
tell them that.
Yeah.
But also going
they know
back,
that?
if you want to get your community talking, you need an event. Start causing mayhem in your neighborhood.
Oh,
Get people
no.
talking, and obviously deny it. Make sure they don't have cameras. There you go.
I don't
people
condone
talk.
any of this. This is
No
I do.
mayhem.
I don't
I'm not
I
saying
don't
bad
condone it.
mayhem. No, like just go outside and like take your neighbor's flower pot, and, like go put it on the other neighbor's flower, steps, and like do the
Why
whole
don't you
walk
just
around.
like walk around holding a beer bottle in just your work boots? Walk around your neighborhood like that and tidy
Well, now you're
whities.
talking about my
That'll
Friday
scare
night.
people.
Yeah.
So once a month, vacuum your driveway
Oh,
keeps the neighbors away.
Keeps the neighbors away. I personally vacuum the front lawn, but I mean, same principle applies.
Well,
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
how
I
else are you
wouldn't
gonna
recommend
get
it
rid
if
of
you
all
have
the
a
grass
gravel
clippings?
driveway.
Well, let's wrap this up. We'll go around the panel here. December's book is going to be A Soldier First by Rick Hillier. Fingers crossed that I finished it in time. And let's start with Liz. Where can everyone find you on the internet?
just here.
Just here.
Yeah. I'm not
No,
really on.
no,
I
no,
don't
no plug for the
active-
podcast. No plug for the Gilded server. Nothing. Just
Oh,
here.
okay, yeah,
Gavin,
I'm
where
on
can everyone find
Gilded.
you on the internet?
You can find
best
me on
place to
Gilded.
find the best place to find me on the internet is Instagram, UrbexGTA.
Pierre, where can everybody find you?
Off the wall customizing at Gmail. Obviously on Monday nights on the podcast, the odd time on the Gilded app, and the other CPP on Sunday nights. I've been getting on there regularly as well to get more social with people and then not have to talk to people in real life.
Oh,
I mean, I support this plan. This is a good plan. We value your opinions. If you want to send us hate mail, you can do that at Canadian. No, wait. You can do that by sending an email to feedback@canadianpatriotpodcast.com. And if that doesn't work out for you, you should meet up with Greg and you can tell him how he feels about us or vice versa.
Something like that.
Greg.
Jerry,
Jerry,
I
Greg.
was
Jerry.
gonna say who's Greg?
We'll get there. It'll be fine.
Alcohol.
No, just contempt. I have so much contempt.
Apparently.
Okay.
Why learn their names when you can just call them whatever you want and still get the same results?
Truth.
Yeah. Maybe even
Basically,
better
same as
ones.
being at work. I have to apologize to Rod. We couldn't get Rod Giltack on the show this evening. Rod is obviously very busy. NDP liberal fracas happening. Rod is busy lobbying the government for your firearms rights. And for all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are a small fringe minority with unacceptable views.